Welcome to the Stuff and Things Podcast, your home for all stuff related to your favorite things in entertainment. Now, here are your hosts.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Stuff and Things Podcast. I am Sam. Joining me on today's show and every show is my partner in crime, it's Stefan.
How we doing, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, man. And you?
I am good. I wanted to do a really cool introduction to this podcast, but then I realised I didn't want everyone to have my full name, so I decided not to.
Okay. Well, yeah, okay, I see where you're going. So today's podcast is James Bond podcast, because it's episode 007, which obviously left us with no choice. We had to do this.
The name's Bond. James Bond.
Episode, I think I said this a few weeks ago, and it's now become clear why I've done it. I've not been calling the Stuff and Things podcast 2.0 episodes 1, 2, 3. I've been keeping the 00.
Yep.
And now everyone knows why.
Just
after
this
today,
one podcast.
Yeah, after today it's going to be episode 8, 9. Well, 9 might be a little bit different, but that's a whole other story for everyone to look forward to. But yeah, a little bit of podcast admin to kick off. The show, since we've redone it, thank you so much for everyone who's got in touch. Really appreciate it. We've been getting various messages via various means, sort of talking about the shows, talking about the subjects we've been discussing. Kind of funny, the feedback we've had on the Streaming Wars one. I was worried people were going to find that one really boring. But that one seems like loads of people found that really interesting and also kind of had their own views on it, which is kind of cool.
Well, that's good times.
It is good times. Obviously, the Marvel and the Star Wars ones resulted in various opinions.
Yep.
So that's been fun. But one of the things we're going to do with the format is roughly every 10th show, roughly, and it is rough, is we are going to take those questions, that feedback from the previous shows, and turn it into a show where we're basically going to discuss it. So if you've got questions on any of the topics, any of the shows we're doing, or just on anything in general, then send them in. You can email sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com. That will be in the podcast description. You can get in touch with us via our Discord. The link to that will also be in the podcast description. In there, it's basically a chat room. Lots of shows listed with discussions from where we used to go heavy into all the shows, which are all there. But also there's just a general chat, which is what people have been using just to talk about the episodes that we're doing now, which has been fun.
Yeah.
It's a very, very small group of people on there. For whatever reason, a lot of people seem to avoid Discord, but not entirely sure why that is.
No, I'm not sure they are.
I did have a theory which made me laugh, which is a lot of people set up their Discord when they were like younger and gaming. And
yes.
So there's a lot of embarrassing usernames, which could be kind of fun, I guess. But anyway, so the link again will be in there, so please do get in touch, and you can speak to us directly there. I'm trying to be more active there, like a good boy. So yeah, you can join me there. You can also get in touch via the podcast apps or any of the socials. Right, that's done. So today it is the podcast, James Bond podcast, episode 007.
It's Things, Stuff and Things.
Yeah. James Bond's an interesting one for us to talk about because there's a lot of stuff going on right now. It's almost like I planned it, that it was things going on right now. But I think we ought to start with what I think's the kind of key topic to it is our history with the franchise, our kind of personal... Because I think everyone has their Bond, if that makes sense, like the one they possibly grew up with or the one that's their favourite.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put it to you first. Do you have that? Do you have like... Is the one you grew up with also your favourite, or did that change?
In all honesty, I never really got into James Bond as a kid.
Okay.
It was something, for me, it was something that older people watched because they were all old films, so I didn't really get into it.
Dude, what the hell?
Well, mainly because if I ever saw a James Bond on the telly, it was like the proper old Sean Connery sort of ones.
Yeah.
So it was an old film, so therefore as a kid didn't really care that much.
Yeah.
The first Bond I saw in like the cinema and stuff was Casino Royale.
Okay, so the Daniel Craig...
And that hooked me.
Yeah.
So for me, Daniel Craig is... that's James Bond.
He's your Bond, yeah.
Which obviously you get a lot of people going, no, my favourite is this, or like you said, I grew up on this one. But no, for me, it's Daniel Craig purely based on that's where my James Bond started.
Well, it's interesting because slight difference to you is when I was growing up, you couldn't have a bank holiday in the UK, a public holiday in the UK, without Bond films being on. You know what I mean? It was like, they'd just be on, and sometimes like it'd be a couple in a row, and they'd be the films like my dad would stick on or whatever and watch, and so I'd kind of take them in by osmosis. Like I'd be playing with toys or whatever because I'd be younger, and I'd be sort of half watching.
They're in the background sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah. So my kind of introduction was the Sean Connery version, but I remember the utter confusion of watching a Bond film because I'd seen like 3 or 4 with Sean Connery, and it being a different actor, and just being kind of like really confused by it.
Who the heck's this guy?
Yeah, and one of my funniest kind of things with Bond is, do you know when you get to that age where you're at school, you're learning things you're too young to learn, but you have to hide from your parents, you now get innuendo jokes. Do you know what I mean by that? Like you're in that kind of age where you shouldn't know that the name Pussy Galore has a double meaning.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And Bond was rife with that. Like, Bond was like, oh, what's your name? Like, oh, Biggest Dickus. I know that's different, but, it was rife with it, that kind of innuendo. And they kind of took it to a almost parody degree. But one of the things that I always find kind of funny from my point of view is the James Bond that was on the most when I was a kid, I believed the actor's name was a silly made-up James Bond name because his name was Roger Moore.
Yeah.
And so I never fully understood, like, oh, Roger Moore is James Bond. I'm like, why has he got a character name and he's James Bond? I was like, oh, James Bond must be an alias.
Yeah.
So like it took, like I got older and I was like, oh, his real name was Roger Moore. Wow, he really suited the Bond franchise. That kind of worked. But
yes,
I did think to myself because then so the first real Bond that caught me, well, I was old enough to really be into it, was GoldenEye. That was Pierce Brosnan's first outing as James Bond.
Yeah.
It had this amazing scene, and I went to the cinema to watch it, and I had this incredible scene where right at the start of the movie he does a bungee jump. Obviously he doesn't do it, and a stuntman does.
Yeah.
Off of this ridiculously tall dam. And I always remember it because I was in the cinema, and I actually properly felt a bit like, ooh, because the camera goes up over his head and looks down before he jumps.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember being in the cinema, so oh, that was a little bit, oh, that was good. But I really enjoyed that film because it felt James Bond, but it felt modern at the time. If anyone's watching it now, going, what? At the time.
It was in
so
colour
I was just
and
like,
everything.
oh, wow,
Yeah.
like, this is really good. But in that film, for example, there was a character called, I think is Zanya, on the top.
Yeah.
Who kills her victims by basically shagging them to death on top and then crushing them in her mighty thighs.
Yeah, it's only in James Bond, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's one of those things where I always thought they were proper serious movies. And then obviously you get things like that come up and you're like, that is not serious. Like that's like parody in itself.
It is. And then what is interesting is because when you then watch the modern version of Bond, which is the Daniel Craig films, where they eliminated that, they took it seriously, you realise that actually the Bond, even the Sean Connery ones all the way through, had a real element of massive tongue-in-cheek kind of British, almost carry-on level humour in it.
Yes.
Like the Q branch. In the modern telling of the films, the Q branch is very simplistic, but very cool, very interesting.
Yeah.
In the older versions of the films, they were ridiculous, from exploding like, you only got to go to those scenes with like people in the background like walking into a phone box and then it getting filled with foam and then being stuck, and like it literally was almost like a parody of itself. It was like poking fun at its own genre, you know?
Yeah.
I think that was part of the appeal.
But so, do you think that's what made it work so well?
I think it did. I think it did, but then at the same time, I think the Pierce Brosnan films kind of, for me anyway, and it is a very personal opinion, this kind of took it so far, or too far, which meant that, you know, because they tried, like GoldenEye felt a level of seriousness to it with a few stupid characters, like the Zonya on the top character. If you remove that character, that film's far more in line with the Daniel Craig films, if you see what I mean. Like, there's a very serious story to it. Yep. Yes, there's plenty of Bond bravado, but you know he's betrayed. There's 006. There's like a really interesting story to that. But they do have this Russian woman killing men with her powerful thighs from sex. So you do. Yeah. It's like they kind of had to have that in there. But as those Pierce Brosnan films went on, they got more and more kind of like. I remember the one that for me killed it for me was The Invisible Car. Like, oh, and they tried to explain it like, oh, it's really clever, it's covered in cameras, so it just kind of, I'm like, oh no, you've gone too far. Like, the phrase jumping the shark, you know, it's just,
yeah,
and it just kind of felt like you've taken the realism away now. Like, this doesn't feel real.
Yeah, you can go so far with it, and then you kind of have to know, right, that's where we stop.
Yeah, and you're like the silliness of, like, you know, the grenade pens and stuff like that. All of that's in there. Well, that's good, but then you've got this, and you're kind of like, no, you've lost me. So the Pierce Brosnan films lost me, but there was one film in the Pierce Brosnan era I just want to discuss briefly, because what's really interesting about it is this film. Do you know what? I genuinely don't know when it came out. It's called The World Is Not Enough. And I don't know if you've seen it, but the premise of the film is this global billionaire who's a news mogul, so he owns news networks, TVs, newspapers, starts to create the news. So he has people killed to create headlines. So he is basically masterminding it. So he's creating conflict, and he's trying to create a war between Britain and China. By basically having like a British boat, he manages to hack the kind of guidance system, so it ends up in Chinese waters, gets attacked by a MiG, but he has a stealth boat which shoots down the MiG, so it looks like, you know, they're attacking each other, and he's trying to start a war.
Right, yeah.
When you take that film and the premise of that film and you apply it to this kind of modern world we live in, where all of a sudden there's these billionaires who own massive amounts of media and have just an insane amount of kind of power without being a government or anything like that.
Yeah.
I do look at that film sometimes and just think, was that ridiculously ahead of its time? Were they lucky that they kind of hit the nail on the head? How true is it?
What do they know?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's very easy to put a tinfoil hat on at this point, but you do look at that film, or at least I do sometimes, and look at the premise of it, and then look at the world we're in now in 2025 and think, oh, wow, okay.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, tech billionaires buying elections, check. Newspaper moguls consolidating corporate media to push an agenda, check. Okay, that's a little worrying.
Yeah, you have multi-billionaires that now own entire social media content because
exactly,
I've got the money for it, why not?
Exactly. So, you know, the way that kind of the media manipulation was being defeated was social media. Because, you know, you could own all the newspapers in the world, but if people aren't getting their news from the newspapers anymore, you're it doesn't matter. So social media was kind of breaking that monopoly that the billionaires had on the information game. And then one of the billionaires bought the biggest, exactly. And you then learn that actually they're selling your data and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, okay. Maybe this isn't so great after all. But yeah, so the premise of that film always comes back to haunt me a little bit. But like I said, I think for me growing up, there was different Bonds and I was just kind of aware of it. But like you, my kind of hook in and my kind of... So GoldenEye made me a Bond fan, but then also the Pierce Brosnan films kind of took me out.
Yeah.
When they announced Daniel Craig, I kind of looked at him and was like, well, he doesn't look like the Bond that I've seen in my lifetime. But
no.
Let's see what happens. And Casino Royale, like you, it took itself seriously. That film explained who he was, why he was the way he was, gave us a kind of origin story to a character which we not really had. And
yeah, it was strange because everybody knows James Bond.
Yep.
Everyone knows who he is.
Yep.
But no one actually knew who he was.
No. It's sort of why is he the way he is. And so what I find interesting is up until the Daniel Craig films, and I guess when they started I assumed it'd be the same, they literally kind of told stories, and if the actor changed, it just carried on. It was like, oh, now James Bond is played by this person, but we're just carrying on.
Yeah.
With the Daniel Craig films, it felt like a reboot, and it was, in essence, where they say, no, we're going back to the beginning, and we're going to tell a complete story with this character from start to finish. And I think possibly because of that, because I feel like I've seen the complete story with it, and like I said, it took itself seriously. It didn't have this... It still had plenty of like moments which are, you know, you hear the Bond theme kick in, you're like, oh, here we go. Here comes some crazy action.
Yeah.
We're going to get some crazy stunt coming here. Here we go. It still had plenty of that, which is great. But it just had this kind of, for me anyway, this kind of realism to it.
It brought Bond from suave, sophisticated, lots of gadgets, and it kind of took him to nitty-gritty fighting in the street.
Yeah.
And I liked that.
You think about like the opening to Casino Royale is him getting his second kill to get the 00 status. And he's with the guy in the office, and the guy's like, oh, you've not been promoted to 00 because you need 2 kills. And you're getting this flashback to him killing the guy to get the information to get to this guy. And you're like, oh, he's already got 1, mate.
Yeah.
I got bad news for you. This isn't going to end well. And the guy pulls the gun on him, and there's no bullets in it. And Bond's sort of like, oh, looking for these. And then bang. It's like, oh, what's that? The guy even says to him, like, oh, you know, your second one's much easier. And he doesn't finish the line, and Bond shoots him in the face and goes, yeah, much easier.
Yeah.
And you're like,
oh, Dad,
shit.
okay.
Yeah, you are cold-blooded. But then you get this character where he falls in love. And you're kind of like, I've never seen James Bond really fall in love. Like, I know there's been storylines and stuff like that, but James Bond typically is kind of like, hello, bend over, off you go, you know?
Well, yeah, everyone knows the Bond ladies and the Bond women, and, you know.
Yeah, love them and leave them. And yet here's this Bond girl, in air quotes, who's kind of his equal, kind of like she's... The way she's talking to him, the way she's conversing, everything like that. It's like, okay, well, this is different. And you're like, oh, this is going to be an interesting take. Bond's in love. And then she betrays him.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, this is why he's the way he is. He fell in love. And then he got betrayed.
Yeah, and he learned, don't do that again.
Yeah, and so by the time that first film finished, I was like, I completely now understand this character in a different way to how I understood him before, and they're going to go forward with this, and now I get it. Now I get he's like this. He's this kind of shielded bravado, and it's just so fascinating, like so interesting, just having that. And then you go through the films, and obviously he ages, you know, the actor's aged, but also they kind of like the first film, he's this new hotshot, you know, doing all this stuff, gets his 00 status, and by the final films, he's this kind of, oh, he's a has-been, you know, technology now is, you don't really need someone out in the field and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good as well, because again, you go back to all the Bond films we ever saw, that was never like really a factor. It was always like James Bond's going to save the day, dun dun dun, like a superhero almost. But in this, he was like, he hit the bottle pretty hard at one point. You know, he was struggling with different things. Injuries were catching up to him. You know, he wasn't as good a shot as he was in the earlier films. You know, and I'm watching it like, it feels real. It feels
like he's genuinely, the punches don't just bounce off anymore. The punches hit and he goes, ouch.
Yeah. You know, it's that. I mean, it's the Indiana Jones line. Like, it's not the years, love; it's the mileage.
Yes,
I think there's plenty of truth in that for James Bond as a character. You know, you look at the beatings, the wounds, and everything. The one thing that I think is massively controversial with the Daniel Craig Bond films, and I think we do need to discuss it, and I'm going to say this now, massive spoiler alert. But if you're listening to a James Bond podcast talking about stuff with James Bond and you've not watched the last of the Daniel Craig films, it's kind of on you, alright?
yeah, I'll give you that.
But what do you think to the fact they decided to kill him?
I was in the cinema and it absolutely blew me away. You know, like when you watch a film and you suddenly like, it's always like the penny drops just before it's kind of revealed and you go, no. No, oh my God, they're going to.
Because in my mind, I'm like, how's he going to get out of this? This is crazy. How's this?
The whole scenario, wait a minute, no, wait, he's been, oh shit. And then his wife, and he's like, oh my God, or not wife, you know, his partner, mother, his child, oh my God, there's only one way out of this now.
Yeah.
They can't do this. This isn't how James Bond goes.
No. I think as James Bond saving the world goes, I mean, absolute friggin' epic.
That would be up there in the best way of doing it, I suppose.
But I mean, so here's the thing with it that I think is controversial. It's like, well, you've killed the franchise then, because it's like you've told this story from beginning to end, which I'm fine with. But the whole thing with Bond was always like, okay, the actor doesn't want to do anymore. We get a new actor and we carry on. But they made the decision, actually, no. We've made the decision that with this Daniel Craig set of films, we are going to bookend it. It is going to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. I love that. Like, I am really happy with that. Like, I can watch those Daniel Craig films and it tells me a complete story.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. I'm not happy they killed him, but it tells me this complete story.
There was 5, wasn't there? It was Casino Royale, Quantum of Solace... Was it Skyfall, then Spectre, then No Time to Die?
Yes.
I believe
you're correct. Yeah.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so you look at it, and like I said, it was a complete story. Told everything start to finish, evolution of the character in every sense of the way.
We meet the woman who he ends up, dying for in the end. Earlier on, and then she disappears for a bit, and then we kind of get her come back, and it's all there. Yeah,
it is all there. The story goes right the way through the films. His M dies, is replaced by Mallory. And you get all of it, and it was incredible. The films are great, but there is that aspect of, okay, so what now then? Like, do you expect an audience to go back to the beginning? Do you expect, like, okay, we're now just doing a brand new cast again, we're starting again, Casino Royale again? Do you know what I mean? Or what?
These are going to be the next 5 Bond films, and you kind of go, but you've done this.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, what happens next? Now, to make this more interesting, is the film was always MGM Studios and controlled by a family called the Broccoli family. Not to be mistaken for the vegetables.
Yeah. Now we have the parsnips.
Yes. Oh, honey roast parsnips, lovely. So now Amazon bought MGM. So Amazon own Bond. The Broccoli family and Amazon then held loads of meetings to decide what's to come next. The Broccoli family have had the Bond franchise going back to, Sean Connery. So
wow.
they had a very clear idea of what they wanted to do. Amazon had a much more broader thing. So this is speculation. This isn't out there as fact, but the speculation is Amazon sat down and said, we'd like to look at a James Bond TV series. We'd like to look at Bond films, a continuation of the Daniel Craig cinematic things. And we'd also like to look at a new Bond film franchise. And the Broccoli family were like, you replace the actor, you carry on. Like, this is what we do. And the Daniel Craig thing's on its own, So the sides went backwards and forwards until Amazon basically eked them out, bought them out, made it clear Bond's dead unless you go away. Like, we are not going to make anything. We are going to sit on it until you sell it to us. So the Broccoli family reluctantly give up and leave, and now it is in complete control of Amazon MGM. Yeah. And they are now developing their different ideas. So what I'd like to do is talk about the ideas that are out there in the sense of these are the rumoured ideas.
Yep.
Then I'd like to get your thoughts on them, and then if you've got any ideas, and then I've got an idea which I think would work really well.
Okay, so just before we hit into that bit then, I want to touch on, so when I was growing up as a kid, and when I first kind of, Daniel Craig and all that in the James Bond thing, you kind of have to have this understanding in your own head of, well, how do we keep getting all these different people?
Yeah.
So I then kind of went down this in my head was like, okay, so 007 is just a title.
Yeah.
James Bond is an agent name.
Yeah.
So there's Steve. Yeah, he's been promoted to 007. Your agent name is now James Bond.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how my brain made it all work.
Yeah.
For me, that's almost now like the only way they can now make the franchise work is if they kind of accepted, that's actually how, because Daniel Craig's James Bond has now died.
Well, I'll tell you what then. I'm going to do my... You've literally just... That is where my head is.
Oh, so, sorry.
No.
Scrub that, guys.
No. If I'll do this first then. So, you're right. Up until the Daniel Craig films, I think you could headcanon it in your mind. James Bond is an alias. Therefore, anyone who assumes the 007 takes on the alias of James Bond... And in the security services, there's just different names. Like
you're right, Dave. That's Bond now, actually.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that makes sense to me, and that's kind of where my head was. That is not how it is. That's not how they intended it. It was always just no. This is a man called James Bond, and Daniel Craig sold that to us. That is his name. He is James Bond. He grew up an orphan. His parents were called Bond. You literally learn through those 5 films, not an alias at all.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, okay, so how can you do a continuation then? Because there is this rumour that they wanted to do it. And I thought to myself, the problem you've got there is if you do that, and again, this is such a hot topic to dive into, but in the last film, Bond is retired, and the new 007 in MI5 is a black woman.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Can you imagine the reaction to 007, the new Bond film, and it's now just called 007. It's not called James Bond anymore, and 007 is that lady carrying on. As much as I'd be like, oh, okay, that'd be interesting. Like, it's just because it's not called James Bond. She's not pretending to be James Bond. Not changed the gender.
She is just 007.
Yeah, it's just a continuation of the films, and the films are now called 007, The Adventures of 007, whatever. You're going to do a trilogy, and it's all that cast returning like that. And I thought to myself, yeah, that could work. And then I thought to myself, look at what's happened with all these film studios that have been destroyed, like, the go woke, go broke movement, really. there is no way, like, even if me and you or any reasonable-minded person is like, okay, they've not gender-swapped James Bond, so I'm happy, I'll be interested to see what this is like. There's so many people who are just like, nope, rubbish, DEI. it just be...
If you want to see examples of this, just go on to any social media at the moment and type in the word Rapunzel.
Oh, yeah. So
that will give you the reaction you're probably going to see.
But my point on that is, though, like, that is race swapping a character. This isn't. This is a new character. It just happens to be 007. But I know the reaction would still be trash.
It would be. It's like, this is one of the few times that reaction would actually work. Not that reaction. That scenario. It would work in this because, okay.
Well, it's perfectly logical, but my feeling, and I could be proven horrifically wrong here, but my feeling is, if I'm a studio and I'm looking at this and I want to reignite the Bond franchise and everything, and I'm thinking, okay, we could do a series, we could do this, and also we could have the old cast returning to continue those films, and therefore just like the 007 Adventures of. So I had an idea of what you could possibly do, okay?
Okay, I'm in.
So imagine it's all the cast from the Daniel Craig Bond films, they're returning, and the film's just called 007, right? And it's like 007 Legacy, right? There you go, I've titled it and everything. And what we've got is the security services, all these people again that we've seen before, and they're carrying out their missions, 007. At the start of the film, we have a mission and everything, it goes really well. But then there's this big threat, there's like a global terrorist or someone who's done something, and the only way to make contact, or the only person this person will talk to or something, is James Bond. And you're like, well, we can't, he's dead. Like, what are we going to do? Like, there's no way. There's like no way we can do this. Yep. And then you're there and you're like, oh, hang on. He never met him. He only knows of James Bond. He never actually met him in person. So you create the James Bond as now an alias. And you take an agent and you train them and you're like, right, you're an agent in our system and we are going to train you. You are no longer Bob. And I'm using Bob for all the reasons we used in Thunderbolts. Yeah. You are now James Bond and we are going to train you to be him. So the film is like, you've got all these characters like Moneypenny, all these people who you've seen with Daniel Craig all the time. Perhaps even, because remember his partner was like a psychologist, like a profiler. Maybe she comes in and is like, no, this is how this is how he would do this. And you could even have a little bit of fun, like, he'd say his name's Bond, James Bond. Why would you do that? Why don't you just say I'm James? No, that's not how he talks,
Yeah, no, he had this weird thing, he liked to do it. Yeah.
So you have this character, like a younger version, create this, like, now it is a persona. And therefore, going forward from that point on, you've got that ability to change the actor anytime you want, because you have now created, so you've got the Daniel Craig films, there was a James Bond. James Bond lived, he fought, he died. However, we've now created it as an alias because we needed someone to be convinced that James Bond was the person coming to a meeting.
Yeah, he needed to be replaced. We need that character.
Yeah, so and that way you then create this franchise going forward. Okay, Bond is back, but you've not shat on the Daniel Craig thing. You've not brought him back from the dead like in some amazing. Oh, actually, he snuck out. Yeah,
but he can still never go near anyone he loved again because
exactly. But he's trying to find a cure. He's currently living on the moon. So you don't ruin any of that, but you do open the door to it being James Bond going forward. And to me, it seems to be the only kind of logical way you can do it without literally starting again. Saying, right, okay, everything that's come before is on the shelf and we start again. And this time we're not starting with Casino Royale, we're starting with Hotel Emperor. It's like, hang on a minute. Yeah. That's my... What do you think?
I think you're right. I think looking at how those 5 movies changed the way that James Bond was perceived.
Yeah.
You go. The only way they're going to be able to make it carry on is to take either say my idea of actually, after Bond died, we carried on his legacy by renaming that position as an alias, or like you say, we need Bond back for something. How are we going to do it? We're going to do it like this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the same idea, just different ways of arriving at it. Just the thing is, you then create James Bond is an alias, not a real person, because of course the Daniel Craig films confirmed
he was a real person, and that's where it was kind of like, whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah. I mean, it was always headcanon for people, I think, like, oh, actors changed because this. It was always kind of like, no, it's the same guy. But I think, like you, everyone was kind of like, that's the way I sell it to myself.
Yeah, because otherwise there's no way he's changed that way that many times.
And he's
without
not been doing this since the 60s,
hold up.
you know. Yeah. Didn't you have a Scottish accent before, you know? Yeah.
Shaken, no, wait a minute, that's not how you said it last time.
No.
Yeah.
But then they tied that in quite beautifully in the Daniel Craig films, like back to the original car. His family were from Scotland. Lived on the estate, Skyfall. So they tied it all in like really great, like to tell us it's a real person. Is we've done all this. So yeah, I just think that. But the other rumours then, so a TV series of Bond could work, but I don't know. I think of Bond as films.
When they say TV series, I think it depends massively, especially with it being Amazon, on which way they go. Now, if they make a TV series and they put the same sort of finance and effort into Bond as they did, say, the Rings of Power,
never happened.
If they were to go, I mean, for me, the Rings of Power is it's a TV show.
Yeah.
But it's so much more than a TV show. Like, they're almost mini movies when you're watching them.
They literally are, yeah.
Now, if they were to go to that sort of level, then
never happen.
Yeah, that could work really well. If they're going to make a 45-minute, here's a mission, I don't know if it would.
You and I both know the reason the Rings of Power it looks like that is because Jeff Bezos, the world's one of richest people, literally gave them a blank check to make it because he loves Lord of the Rings.
I love Lord of the Rings. Make it look beautiful.
Make this look beautiful. Like, no one's watching it. I am. That's all that matters.
I have watched this series 22 times. It's fantastic. Do it again.
And I got to be honest with you, if I had that kind of money, I get it. If I had that kind of money that I like, let's say I bought Star Wars from Disney and I had that kind of money to do that and make new Star Wars content, you better believe it's going to be the stuff I want and it's going to look amazing.
There would be like 10 different shows every year and it would all look incredible.
It'd be insane, the level of content I'd create.
Did you ever wonder what Mace Windu did as a 15-year-old in Jedi school? Now you know!
Basic scenario of what if in my mind is now being answered through my wallet. But I see the TV show idea, in principle it could work. You've got missions, you've got things like that, and it could work as kind of a TV show. But I think Bond's bigger than that.
I think, I mean, you'd have to do it almost in a sense of each week is a different mission leading up to one big mission.
Yeah. But could you, so here's the secondary question, could you create because I talked about the 007 thing, could you create a TV series set in the same world as Bond? So let's take our idea, right? So they're all the same cast are returning. They've got to create Bond as an alias, right? So our ideas happening cinematically.
Yeah.
Could a few of those cast members also then be part of a TV series where it's like, okay, that's Bond, that's like the elite level, that's this. Let's have a TV series about a guy who perhaps like 003. is there scope for comedy? Is there scope for... They're like, okay, so Bond's got the Jag, he's got the machine guns, the exploding pens. What do I get?
003's got a Mini Cooper.
Here's a travel
and a
mug.
biro.
Oh, does it explode? No, but it keeps your drink hot. Just, I mean, I don't know. I think there is scope. There could be, but it'd have to be a very good idea. I think people would give it a go. Like if Amazon announced, right, here's a TV show, 10 episodes, first season, set in the James Bond, you know, certain recurring characters, etc., etc. I think lots of people would give that a go. And if it's a good enough story with good enough writing, you'd do okay.
I do think they would have to have the cameos from the movie just to tie it all together.
Even if it's initially, even if it's like the first few episodes to establish a team sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, Q Branch could be interesting, like the kind of techie kind of things. Like, think of it like a TV series, a bit like Hackers, you know, like the film with the 90s.
Yeah.
Where they were using Excel to hack into databases, but we'll ignore that. We'll ignore that. Wasn't the best. So those are the ideas that are out there. It's like there's obviously the movie, the ideas, the TV series. There's even talk of an animated thing. There's talk of.
I don't know about animated. That might not work.
Yeah, there's you know, like there's talk of like a young Bond, like actually going back to him being at school and stuff like that. Like
that for me doesn't work purely on the sense of he wasn't anything before he joined the 00s, so therefore.
Well, so that's an interesting thing because he was recruited out of the Navy. So could you follow his military career before? Like, yeah, there are things there, like, because he's Commander Bond, he's come out of the Navy, so there are ideas there, and I'd be interested to see what develops. But I think personally, and it is just me, Bond is a British male character who is cinematic. Like, if you're going to continue this or you're going to do something, you need to create it that way. I think if you water it down, like, oh, actually, yeah, we got an animated... Because the thing that... I think the MCU is a wonderful thing. Marvel Cinematic Universe is a wonderful thing, but every studio has, since MCU came along, tried to create universes.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to create interconnected things. And so people like, okay, we've got a streaming platform. You love James Bond? Right. You got to subscribe to this platform to watch the James Bond show, which is 10 episodes. Then when you've watched that, the film will come out. And then you've got to watch the film. But if you don't watch the series, then you won't know what's happening in the film. But then when Series 2 comes out, you won't know what's happening because you haven't watched the film. They try to do these interconnected things with the idea of, haha, we've got you. I feel like people have rebelled against that now because it was becoming so widespread,
there was too much content available, and I think you're right. Everyone now is now running that risk of, is there now too much?
Yeah. Well, it's like you run the risk of killing your own franchise through overexposure. I think if you're gonna do something with Bond, which I think they have every intention of doing that, you keep it cinematic. I like the idea we discussed. I like the idea of creating an A-list because then you open that door forever then. Like, you can run this franchise forever and ever and ever because every time an actor goes, you know what, I've done 3 films, I'm done. You're like, okay, cheers, mate.
You have retired. Upsets the next one.
You know, you just basically put it in their contract that, yeah, if you want to quit, no problem, but you have to then be a cameo in the next film, like handing over the torch sort of thing. Or we kill you off, or whatever, you know?
Yeah, how would you like to leave? We can kill you, or
well,
you can just come back and retire.
You've got a 5-film deal, you want to quit after 3, we are going to murder you awfully. Okay, you've got a 5-film deal, you want to leave after the 5th film, great, you'll leave with a handshake and handing off the alias to someone new, younger. But that, to me, is like the best way of doing it. You then keep the franchise going forever because you can just rotate the cast. Like, M is a pseudonym, Q is a pseudonym. So you can have, like, okay, Q's now this guy or this woman, M is now this man, this woman. you just carry on. Like, you can just evolve the cast and just keep going.
Yeah, and constantly.
Yeah, and there's enough there, and there's enough very good writers out there as well to create original stories in the James Bond world, or adapt the novels to a modern setting. Because, of course, you've got to remember those novels were written at a very different time. And there's a lot in there that doesn't translate to a 2025 audience. There is a lot of chauvinism. There's a lot of kind of
reading.
Slapping the secretary on the ass. Like, hey, come on, toots, get me a drink.
Yeah, not anymore.
That's an HR complaint.
Oh, my God, can you imagine James Bond and the Me Too movement?
Oh, yeah, this week is James Bond and the HR meeting. This week's episode is... I mean, like I said, there is a comedy show there. Like, if you want to have a bit of fun, you know, like, Bond, welcome back to HR. This week you said the money penny could suck your... Oh, my God, you said what? You know, yeah. So, anyway, love to know what people think. So do get in touch with us. I said at the start of the show all the ways you can contact us. Email to come straight through to us is sam@stuffandthangspodcast.com. You can join us on Discord. You can get in touch via the podcast apps, via our socials. Let us know what you think. Like, are you a Bond fan? Who is your favourite Bond? Who would you like to see, or how would you like to see it continue? Or, an option we've not discussed, should it? Like, or should you draw
You're
going to
get an email. No. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to get an email from Amazon saying, don't put that in people's heads.
We've brought it to get the royalty. We're not making any more. Shut up.
Yeah.
All right, so question for you then, Sam.
Yep.
If there is another James Bond,
Yep.
movie or TV, doesn't matter. They've just cast, this is the next 10 years of James Bond.
Yeah.
Who is your James Bond?
Oh, that's such a tough question. Do you know, I had someone that I thought would be brilliant. Yeah. And then I watched him in a TV series recently, and I hated it.
Wait, nope.
Yeah, Taron Egerton. I think he's a very talented actor. I think he's British. He was in almost like a kind of James Bond spoof.
The Kingsman was one of my favourite set of movies, apart from the newest one that was shite.
But you could look at him and think, okay, he's a little bit older. Yeah, you can do that. And I watched him in a TV series on Apple called Smoke, and I didn't even finish the series. It is awful. And his acting performance, for me, humble opinion, is awful. Oh. Like, he's doing an American accent. He's portraying this guy, and everyone's like, oh, at the end, and you realise, no, I didn't even get to the end. Like, and it is rare for me. Like, very, very rare for me to tap out a TV series. I watched them to the bitter end, even if I'm not enjoying it normally. But with this, I was just like, no, I like this character. There's no one with any redeeming features. There's like a poorly lit show. I just don't. Yeah, there was nothing in it I enjoyed. And so that's kind of killed him a little bit for me at the moment. And I've seen him do a few films where I've been like, yeah, like he did a Robin Hood version, which was atrocious.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but I have heard reports.
Yeah.
See, I've got to be honest, he's on my shortlist. But he's also on my shortlist to be the new Wolverine as well. So
I've got two others then, which I'm torn between. And funny enough, they're both Game of Thrones alumni. And they're both kind of, they were half brother. Well, they weren't in the end. But so the first one's Richard Madden, who played, young Robb Stark in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
He's Scottish, but Scottish accent, English accent, American. Like, I've seen him do everything. He is a very, very good actor.
Yeah.
I think he would make a brilliant James Bond. I think also you could have a lot of fun with like my idea of he is this person talking with a thick Scottish accent, and you could have him have to evolve that to become. Do you know what I mean? You could literally have him need to evolve that to become Bond, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So you could act like he has that capacity to do it. He was in this Amazon show as well, which was kind of espionage, and he's very good in that. But the show wasn't that great. I can't think what it was called now, but he was very good in that. And the other one, which is kind of a little more left field, but because he was in, and that's Kit Harington. Kit Harington played Jon Snow in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But he also was in the film version of the classic spy drama Spooks. So Spooks was a BBC One MI5 drama which ran for years, and then they rounded off the story with a film called Spooks the Greater Good, I think.
Okay.
And he played a MI5 agent in that who was kind of off the grid, left the service, but had to be dragged back in for like this kind of mission. And I kind of, again, liked, he's shown me he can do it, like in that world.
Yeah.
I think he's a good actor. He's of an age where I think you could get a franchise built around him. You know, if you're looking at doing a film every couple of years,
he's young enough to be able to.
So I'm probably gonna settle on him. I'm probably gonna say Kit Harington would be my choice. What about yourself?
So, purely after watching the Uncharted movie,
Okay.
I did think Tom Holland.
Yeah.
But he can do the kind of the young suave, but I actually think he's too young for the part.
I actually, I think he looks a lot young because of his height as well.
Yeah, I think he would be too young for the part.
I don't think he looks like Bond in my opinion. But
you can't imagine Tom Holland walking into a bar, chatting up the barmaid, taking her home. You'd be like, whoa, whoa!
Yeah,
no, young man, you have bedtime soon. School in the morning.
Yeah,
Stop it.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, mine was actually who you said earlier. His name's just gone out of my head.
Oh, Taron Egerton.
Yeah, that is my. He is my kind of go-to on it.
Oh, okay. I think if you watch Robin Hood and Smoke, you say the same as me.
May change my mind.
Yeah, I feel like he's.
I spent years wanting Idris Elba. I spent years wanting him to be James Bond, and I think that has now ship has sailed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Not because of being black either. Before people start accusing me of that, I was never sure on Idris Elba because I never watched Luther, and a lot of people loved that show. And off the back of that show, were kind of like he should be Bond.
Yeah, see, I watched Hijack that he was in, and I thought he was brilliant in that.
Very, very cerebral in that. Very kind of cold, calculating.
And I just thought, you know what? I liked that. I mean, if we took age and everything out of it entirely, and I could have my dream James Bond, Tom Hiddleston.
That's interesting. Did you ever watch The Night Manager with him?
No.
I always thought that was a Bond audition. I know it sounds kind of crazy, but I always thought that was a kind of, look at me. Okay, if we're taking age out of it, then I'll go Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, yeah.
The Cavalrine. And I think it would change the role slightly. I think he would bring a kind of brute strength, kind of less finesse, more punch you in the face.
You've got a gun, bang! I don't need one.
I
These
have
are my
custom
guns.
tuxedos because of my biceps, not because of my bank balance.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, if we were taking that away, I'd probably go the Cavalrine. But okay, let us know. Get in touch. Who would be your Bond? I think the one thing we can agree on, I hope me and you can agree on, it shouldn't be gender swapped.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it is James Bond. Now, at the same time, I have absolutely no problem at all if they want to make it a TV show and they want to talk about the 00 agency.
Yeah.
You crack on. You have as many female agents in there as long as they are good actors. As long as they're good actors, they can carry the part. You make a TV show about 006.
My thing on it is just I feel like, because when it's a fictional character, I'm always kind of a bit more like, does it matter? But then there are some fictional characters, like you look at kind of going back. I mean, it's been a fictional character that's established for a long time, and I feel like you don't need to do it. Like, if you want to create, like, there's so many amazing fictional characters, and I just feel like it's lazy.
Yeah.
Like when you gender swap, race swap, you're being lazy. Create new stories. There are so many incredible stories.
Can you imagine? Here's Tony Stark, but it's Tony with an I.
Well, you're exactly right.
Iron Woman. No.
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
So, Iron Woman, that was a command in the chauvinistic days. Iron Woman. And that's me cancelled. So, thank you all. Yeah, I mean, that is our show. That is episode 007 podcast, the James Bond podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. We will be back next week with episode 8, and that will be the What If show. Anyone who's ever seen the Marvel TV series What If will know the basic premise of that show, at least to begin with, was to look at scenarios in the Marvel Cinematic Universe and say, oh, what if this person did this instead? Like, what if they made a different decision? So next week on our show, episode 8, we're going to do that, but we're going to talk about TV and film franchises that we both like, and just, okay, so what if this character did this or did that? And just kind of talk through, basically it's going to be funny, knowing us. It's just going to be kind of like, okay, what if Anakin went, I'm not going to join you, Emperor, but Mace, if I side with you, can I, like, get an exemption from being a Jedi and marry a senator and have kids? And Waste Window will go, yeah, all right, but that seems really specific.
Yeah, you're the chosen one. Of course you can.
Yeah. Oh, great. And then just slices the Emperor's head off and, like, everyone lives happily ever after. So that kind of thing. We're going to be talking about that. So if you've got ideas for that, get in touch. But, yeah, that's next week. Episode 9 is a surprise, which I'm not going to preview. Everyone's going to have to listen to that one to get it.
Yeah.
Episode 10 will be where we look over questions and things from everybody. But yeah, that is our show. Thank you everybody for listening. Thank you so much for getting in touch and letting us know what you think of the new format and what you're finding. One thing we are getting a lot of is people saying, are you still going to talk about shows in particular, like when they come out? It's going to be a kind of as and when. A lot of the new format kind of ideas to make sure there's something weekly, because a lot of people always said, like, you know, I listen to you guys 3 times a week for a few weeks and then I don't hear from you for ages. and so that's one of the key changes. But as and when things happen, maybe some films, etc., we will maybe jump on and do specials. They won't be instead of the regular Friday shows. They'll be in addition to. So do keep an eye on our socials for that. We'll announce them as and when we're doing it. But as is tradition on this show now, I'm going to say goodbye to everyone, and I'm going to leave the final thought to Stefan.
Is the S or the C silent in the word scent?
Thank you for listening to the Stuff and Things podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. You can find us on Facebook or online. Simply search the Stuff and Things podcast to join in our conversation every week.